Willow is the newest mythic thrower in Brawl Stars, and I find her very confusing. What I mean by that is I'm not sure if she's absolute trash or sneaky OP. So we're going to pit her 1v1 versus every brawler in Brawl Stars in base level interactions, as well as some in-game scenarios, and see if we can figure it out. A quick primer on Willow first though. Each shot she throws deals a total of 1800 damage that comes in the form of 3 poison ticks. There is 0 initial damage on the shot, much like Byron. Now, Brawl Stars classifies her as a controller, not artillery with the other throwers, but I guess that makes sense because she actually mind controls other players with her supers, which we'll get to that here in a minute. To start this off, let's just get the beating out of the way right off the top and pit her versus the tanks. Now, no thrower is much of a matchup for tanks in these tests, as it doesn't take into account a thrower's best friend, a wall. And since her damage isn't instant, brawlers like Bull are able to take her out before she ever gets in a lick of damage. Daryl is the same story, and while BB does take quite a bit of damage since she has to run her down, she still wins convincingly. The beating continues with Buster, followed by El Primo, and then Ash had very little issues as well. Supercell decided to classify Meg as a tank, and what follows is possibly the most pathetic display of fighting ever. I mean, yeah, Willow would get absolutely destroyed by Meg in tank form. I mean, it wouldn't even be close. But, I mean, hey, she'll take the win. Now, as bad as that looked, tanks are actually going to be one of Willow's prime targets. Now, not to beat in 1v1, but when it comes to mind control. When she uses her super, she takes control of the brawler that it's cast upon. That brawler becomes friendly and you can attack the other team. And what better brawler to do that with than one that deals devastating damage? Now, you can break this mind control by either waiting 4 seconds and it breaks naturally, your teammates can kill Willow and it breaks, or the person being mind controlled can fall to 30% health. Now, as a tank, you normally want to be behind some cover, and if you get mind controlled by Willow, she could just run you out into the open, and when it breaks free, you're a sitting duck. Or if she mind controls you by your teammates, she can quickly wreak havoc. In a game, Willow is going to stay comfy behind her walls like she wants to, especially now with the unbreakable walls, which means this is a rather iffy matchup for tanks depending on the map. But make no mistake, if a tank gets close to you and you're Willow, you have very little chance of survival.
The rocks speak to me.
Now, when pitted in an open field against damage dealers, as you can see in this Let's Destroy Willow montage, Willow cannot and should not try to stand toe-to-toe against these brawlers. Her damage kind of just trickles in. There's like 0 burst with her normal shot. She's much like a thrower version of Byron. And another thing that is also a lot like Byron is her first gadget called Spellbound. This will cause her next shot to deal the full damage of her normal shot instantly, plus add another 500 damage, which makes for a potent 2300 damage shot in one single go. This is a very valuable gadget for her. Now contrast this with her second gadget called Dive, where she goes underground for 2 seconds and is untargetable, but then just pops right back up at the same spot, ready to be slaughtered. Now, there are some really deadly matchups here for Willow though, like Surge. If he has his super, he's going to send you back to your swamp with 0 love. And ones like Nita, who you're going to have a terrible time trying to fend off Bruce. And no, unfortunately, you cannot mind control Bruce. That would be fun, but it's not possible. But overall, this is a pretty fair matchup as long as you do what throwers do and stay behind a wall. The one thing that will help you and your team further here is our first star power called Love is Blind. When your main attack is active on your target, so the poison is ticking, they have a 25% slower reload speed. This is a big hindrance for enemies and a great boost for your team. Now, if you've watched many of these 1v1 videos, you'll know that these tests are not the best for throwers. I mean, there's not like really a fair way to do it, but since we are pitting thrower versus thrower here, it's a fair fight. And as you can see, Willow's big weakness here comes into play. She does not deal any upfront damage at all, and all of these brawlers are able to take her out without too much issue. Even the unlikely Tick manages to get a win here, highlighting just how weak she is if someone is able to get close to you. That being said, in a real game, this is pretty much a fair fight. She doesn't have the range of Tick or Grom, but she can deal quite a bit of damage as well as delay the opponent from starting to recover their health. So while she may seem weak here in these tests, in a game, she'll do just fine against other throwers.
Double barrel Daryl for the win!
Now, if you're a fan of the assassins, then you know that throwers are a prime target, and Willow here is even more susceptible than some of the other throwers. Best case scenario here is you might get a kill on an assassin after you're already dead, or maybe you can use your second gadget to delay the inevitable, but plain and simple, this is just a bad matchup for Willow. Even though she does have a decent amount of health for a thrower, that's nothing for these bursty brawlers to break through. It's good alliteration right there. There is one thing that you could do though, and that's use your mind control on them. If you can get it off quick enough, you can mind control them and run them away from you, maybe out into the open where your teammates can help take them down. And her second star power can help you do this even better because it increases the movement speed by 75% of whoever you're mind controlling. So you could really get that assassin away from you real fast. Otherwise, you better hope that your teammates are there to assist you, or there really isn't much hope for you. Next up, we have the support brawlers. Now, these brawlers don't have a ton of damage and normally don't have much health either, so it seems like this would be a good matchup for these tests. Unfortunately, that's really not the case. They still dish out more damage than she does, and they deal it faster. Now, I mentioned earlier that Willow was very similar to Byron in many ways. Now, she can't heal like Byron does, but they both deal trickle damage over time. Also, Byron has never won when pitted against every other brawler, so Byron, your fans will be glad to note that he picks up his very first win today against Willow. Now, you'll also note that even Byron isn't great in these tests. He's still a very solid brawler. And in fact, he was well above average for a long time. And I think that there's a lot of analogies here that we can draw between Byron and Willow, but I'll save my recap for the end. Now, as for the support brawlers against Willow, it's kind of a wash. There is one thing that you really need to watch out for, though. As a support brawler, you're often called to be the gem carrier. And as the gem carrier, you are the prime target for mind control. If you get mind controlled, you can better believe that you will be run right to the other team or out in the open and they put in a really tough spot. On the flip side, a bad matchup for Willow here is Gray. You're going to be the target of his portal and he will easily be able to take you down. On one side, we have Willow, who deals 0 point damage, and on the other side, we have Brawlers who deal massive point damage from range. I mean, who do you think's going to win? If you said Willow, well then you might want to rethink some things, because even though the marksmen have low hit points, it doesn't really matter here. They completely chew through her health in a blink of an eye. Now, just because she's getting wrecked here doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad matchup. In fact, it's not really a bad one at all, because in reality, you're almost never going to be 1v1 versus a long-range brawler as Willow. You'll be behind a wall and the marksman will be way out of range. There really isn't even a fight here in most situations, as you'd be targeting a different brawler altogether. That being said, if you did manage to work into range of one of these marksmen and stay behind a wall, you're at a big advantage. There is one brawler here that will be a big issue for Willow though, and that's Bonnie. You're going to be a big target for her. You want to be very wary of her launching onto you. Have your mind control ready, or have your teammates looking to help out.
Oh, Gale, you silly sausage.
Now, our final category is the controllers. Willow is part of this group, even though we think of her as a thrower. This group has a wide range of brawlers, and some of them don't put out too much damage like Jessie and Sandy, although they still beat Willow. Then there are the higher damage dealers like Griff, Ems, and Otis. And of course, they don't have too much trouble here dispatching Willow either. I mean, honestly, all the brawlers here don't have too much trouble taking her out. Bo has just too much damage, Gale has too much snow, and Amber just roasts her, like literally. That's the thing about this group that makes it tough. It's just a wide variety of brawlers here, but almost all of these brawlers have some sort of way to deal with throwers. Griff can blow up a wall. Bo has mines. Squeak has shots that go through walls. Mr. P has suitcases that bounce over them. Jean has a hook. Ems has a super and a gadget. If Willow isn't able to stay comfortable behind the walls, she's gonna have a tough time here, and it takes her quite a long time to build up that super as well. So going against the controllers, you're going to need to watch your matchup and act accordingly. So then, we have seen Willow 1v1 versus every brawler in Brawl Stars. She won one match, and really that one was only kind of winning because Meg wasn't in her tank form, so that means she's trash, right? Well, no, it's more complicated than that. Willow is a very interesting brawler. She has some things that make her pretty dang strong. I mean, first off, mind control. It is, however, hard to say exactly how good that's going to be against real players because I've only got a chance to use it against bots. I don't think it's going to be as OP as you might think it's going to be. I mean, yes, there are going to be moments when you're going to make some amazing plays with her mind control, but it takes a while to build up her super and it doesn't last very long. Her damage output is just okay. I mean, yes, 1800 damage over time is pretty solid, but it won't be too often when someone just lets you hit multiple shots on them. So you're probably going to have a hard time finding kills without help. That being said, I think that she'll do all right in places where the throwers do good. She has some potential in Brawl Ball to do some really cool things like mind controlling a defender away from the goal to get an easy goal, but at the same time, she's pretty horrible on defense in Brawl Ball. She can't stop anybody without a super, so yeah. Oh, and by the way, you can't force an enemy to score on their own goal in Brawl Ball. It's kind of sad, but yeah, you can't do it. So overall, I think that she's just going to be average. She's not horrible, but she's not as amazing as some people may think. But then again, I may be totally wrong here. But hey, this is my video, so I'm going to rate her 6.5 out of 10. She's just average with a really unique and very cool super. And maybe that's all it takes. But for me, I prefer RT over Willow. Hope you're enjoying the update.